Hello, I'm Dr. Michael, and today I'm talking to Jeff Bloch. Hello, Jeff. How you doing?
Good, good to see you. I like your hat.
Um,
This is
Thank
new
you.
here.
I got this little how's that,
Oh, and
huh?
your guitar. You're
So
ready to you're ready to
yeah,
go get on stage.
we're gonna make some music today. You and I, we're gonna make some music. So let me see. Let me fix that little get that. There we go. So how you doing today? Give me the
Ah,
check-in of the Jeff Bloch.
yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to get after this. I mean, I wish you could see my office setup here. Now I found a table that was somebody was thrown away downstairs. It's kind of chest height, so I've got my computer on that. So hopefully this works out well. I'm didn't get a DSLR camera. I'm using the MacBook Air camera, which seems to be good. Check that out, and then got the Shure mic and the PodTrack P4. So all your recommendations,
Wow.
appreciate it.
Well done. And it looks like you really don't need the video unless you were like me, if you're into like insane quality and stuff. But even my camera, you're going to see during the middle of this talk, it'll go off and like reset itself for like a couple of seconds. And I don't know what that's about. I've looked it up and I've tried to get on the message boards to find out what it is. And I've obviously hit all the proper settings on the camera itself, saying, no automatic shut off, leave it on all the time. But I'm using it as a pass through, and it was never designed as a pass through. So I'm really not recording onto the camera. I'm just streaming,
You're
using
cheating.
that
You're
as the,
cheating somehow.
yeah, I'm cheating. I'm cheating. But they make you pay.
You-
Here, you're going to have to deal with this.
your life hack.
I feel like everything is political. I feel that way these days.
Ooh.
Everything is like manipulative. Yeah, if iPhone doesn't let you take out your messages, it's because they want you to buy more cloud time. So your phone gets filled up with messages, and then they make it very difficult. And I'm like, this is not an accident. I'm my cynical side is my mother alive and well in me. You know,
Oh, poor
she
mom.
was such a yeah. No,
No, she.
she was right. Most of the times being a cynic, her cynicism was accurate. She
Well,
had a great attitude.
and that probably ties into a lot some of the things we touch on. With there is so much. There's some ill in society. A lot of it driven by obviously things we all know about, which is greed, monetization of everything, consumerism, right? The advertisement that tries to make you feel that you're not worthy and you need to buy their products. This intense programming that you and I talk about a lot, it's a real thing. It's there. It's in every corner we look. And you're referring to it even in technology. Like, gosh, there's easier ways to create stuff that's easier for us to use, but it's really the decisions are all about what makes us buy more and buy the most.
Right. Or enhances their bottom line, even if you're only buying the one.
Right. And that
Right.
designed for failure, is that the term?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Or
Yeah. You
designed
want
for
everything has to have
obsolescence.
a shelf. Right. And there are these things, these early adopters, they want the latest and the greatest and the newest. And like someday they're going to be an iPhone 24 Max X. you know, it is what it is, right? So it's the world in which we live.
Absolutely. Well, and so with that, and I think what we try and do, I think you and I try and do, is be aware of that, but then also not let it turn us into cynics. We're lifelong cynics and almost like anxiety ridden, right? So, we all want peace, joy, happiness, and yet there's this outside influence in the world. So how do we wrestle with that? And I think that's
Well, I think you have to let the cynicism come in. I think you absolutely do, but you don't have to entertain it way beyond the 1 millisecond that it comes in. It's almost like dry mouth. You want to entertain it and you want to be like, okay, and then drink the water right away. You don't want to get caught in the cynicism, but you do want to recognize that it's a thing. And in that recognition, that's plenty because it gives you a call to answer. It tells you where you need to shift to, where your focus needs to be, in order for you to really thrive and take care of yourself. And that's great. But if you're staying in the cynicism, hell, that's a hell of a hit to the quality of life. And I really wouldn't recommend that.
one thing you've said in the past that strikes us as true is that it seems like everything has a survival mechanism. And so just being aware of that, then I think for me, it helps me detach from my thoughts where I'm having ruminating thoughts and and I can say, oh, that's got its own survival mechanism. Is that the way you would say that?
Yes, that's gorgeous. I'm so glad you brought that up. It really is true. I mean, you know, you give somebody who's trying to commit suicide, right, and they've been unsuccessful, and take their head and shove it in a bathtub of water. And what happens? They don't go like, "Oh my God, this is it. I'm finally going to die. Take me." They fight, and it's like, "But wait, you wanted to kill yourself, but you triggered the survival mechanism." And when people say you resist change, it's the same thing. That current version of you sees change as a death to the current self, the current brain state. And to some degree, you could word it that way. It actually is that. I like to word it as current you is handing the baton off to greater you. And but you still want to make sure that current you is fulfilled and comfortable and is dying a happy death.
Well, and it's amazing these mind Fs that we do to ourselves. And one of them, even when you mentioned greaterness, which I love that term, is that we continue to say, well, I've achieved this, but it's not enough, right? There's not enough. And that's what causes a lot of the anxiety. So it's preference, it's desire, right? It's
Let
perceived.
me hit that because
Please.
I don't want to lose my frame of mind on the not enoughness. Look, there's no ceiling to quality of life. That's a big thing. And so there is wisdom to not enough, because if you can melt into the mystery, into the silence, into the I don't know expansion of who you're going to be, then you can melt into another level of expansion. And so the if you word it as if the not enough is that you're unsatisfied with where you are, it's awful. It really is. But if you look at it as like, wow, I'm really in this thing for the great exploration of life, the great exploration of who I am engaged, and I can't wait to find this mystery or unravel this mystery of me or of life. And if you don't take that first step, you don't have access to the step after that. And so I don't look at it as, Moore's disease. I want more. I want more money. I want more. You got to be real careful with that, because that synthetic security will kill you. Literally, it'll, because you're dying while you're alive and you're already dead. You're chasing something that's like hollow. It's empty. It doesn't really help, but it sure does ease that monkey mind. It makes you feel good. Okay, so my synthetic security is okay if I have 100,000 in the bank. Oh, it's okay if I have 200,000. It's okay if I have a million. But you notice it doesn't stop. So at some point, there's got to be like, okay, so when are you really satisfied? And it's like when I'm dissolving myself into the mystery, when I'm really engaged in what it is that I'm exploring and what it is that I'm doing, because there's always another part of the mystery. There is no ceiling to quality of life improvements, which means your own awareness. There's no ceiling to you having greater awareness. And what would that even be if you can have greater awareness than what you have today? And what if you embrace that? And you haven't even embraced it yet. But what if you embrace that and then the next day you wanted to have greater awareness? So I think it's great to have that adventurous spirit, that investigative curiosity regarding the mysteries of life and of you. And in that case, you got to make peace with the fact that there's always more. And I think it's wise to go after that because it's infinite. And I think it's great that you put yourself on that infinite path. That's what I call swirl, right? When you're on that path, it's swirlful. And then you're in swirl because you're wide open and you know that you're able to receive the next part of the mystery. And then when you accept that part of the mystery, then you're giving another part of the mystery. Do you understand? And it's of a higher level. So
And what I was flashing on when you're saying that is it's kind of like being in the zone, right? So if you're if you're in tune with your how you're feeling about something, when you're in the zone, you have no anxiety. You're excited, you're passionate, and yet anxiety has some of those same feelings, but if you really pay attention to kind of your inner voice, it'll tell you when you're striving, achieving, trying to do things that are maybe not swirlful, as you say, or in the zone, or in the with the right energy or the right reasoning.
I love all of that, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I like about, again, talking with you is that, again, you're passionate about life. You're passionate about these conversations that you and I have. Definitely, there's a lot of an intellectual curiosity on your end, But when you laugh and something really hits, it's like that's money right there. That's what that makes it all worth it for me, when you can laugh at yourself, you're silly human, and then you can just enjoy exploring, where it doesn't have to be, I'm exploring. Well, what do I think? Let me assess this. Let me evaluate this. And I love when you're light, because when you're light, I feel like that's almost like a standard on how to explore and to do it with a lot of lightness of heart or love in your field, however you'd like to word it. I just think it's just brilliant to do it that way, because that's the life. It's not the goal, it's the process. The life is in the way you do this. So if you do it with a sense of great liberation or great freedom or great fun or great joy, which in the Succession Seven, we call it great ease. We put it all into that one bundle, right? That's why we don't negotiate with ease, right? We let ease be what it is, because there is lightness and swirl. What a beautiful standard.
I love that. And that step in the Succession Seven that you created, let it be easy, or let it, ease. That's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
anytime we're doing something that, we're pressing too much, we feel it. We feel it in our body, and all of a sudden that little bit of anxiety pops up. And I guess the other thing to hit on is that it doesn't mean anxiety is bad, right? Because if you're not answering the call early on when it's about
Yes.
moving forward, then anxiety is and even fear and everything else strengthens, right? It's saying pay attention to me because you're ignoring something that's important.
Nailed it. You nailed it. What he said.
What he said, right? And I love the power of words and word choice. Like I have a friend that says, he boils it down to all you have to know about life is laughter and learning, right? And my dad says laughter and love, right? But and just those simple words. So if you're ever, when you're feeling confused, like, God, should I do this? What am I doing wrong? This doesn't feel right. You've probably stepped in too deep, right? And you've lost track of really what this is about, right? It's about enjoying this life and doing it, in a passionate way that supports others and yourself. And so it's so easy for us to lose the perspective. But just some of these words just get you back to it, like, right. And that's what I love about, the Succession Sevens we've talked about several times, is the steps of that. Like when you're completely flustered and lost, there is a process that can get you back to peace and joy. Right. And if
Mm-hmm.
you have to go, like, and I've noticed I don't even have to go through all 7 steps every time. Like I'll start on it and all of a
Yep.
sudden I'll be, oh, well, I guess step 2 got me there.
It's like pushing the ball at the top of the hill. It picks up its own momentum.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love it too. I mean, I love everything that you're touching upon right now. And I just want to see if I can keep my mouth shut and let you keep going, because you're dropping some beautiful pearls here.
Well, so one thing that brings to mind is I want to touch on the concept of mindfulness, which almost for some people might start to sound, ooh, wait a minute, that's Eastern philosophy. You're talking meditation, all this stuff. And no, it's right. It's another way to say it is being present. It's just being
That's it.
here, as opposed to
Absolutely.
being in the past or being in the future, and all the anxiety
Could be,
comes with that.
it's also could be observing. It could be witnessing, right? It could, I mean, it's amazing. It's like when you're present, when you're mindful, you're conscious, right? There's another word. I mean, these are all synonyms. And whatever you need to do to really understand and take in and breathe in what mindfulness means, wow. Because it could mean pay attention, right? It could just mean like wake up. It could mean so many things. It could be like feel, take it in, like just and that's why it's pretty important to actually take a deep dive into the Succession Seven, because as you get to know what each step is, it's beautiful. And, one word as a standalone doesn't really, it's not poetry if I just say love. But I can write a poetry of love and it's like, oh, that was so beautiful, right? And it's the depth, it's the contrast, it's the storytelling. And the Succession Seven is a story, and it has a story to tell you, and it's so supportive and so helpful. And the key is it's so much fun. it's a fun exploration. It's a fun deep dive, you know. The deeper you go, the lighter it is. It's not deep heavy. Oh, we're going in. It's like the deeper you go, the more freer you are, you know. And I love that. I'm proud of that. I'm proud that it's set up that way.
Well, so sometimes when I use it, I'm done in 60 seconds, right? Other times I'll spend 10 minutes, almost like a short meditation. How do you use it? Do you still use it?
Oh, of course. Oh my gosh. Especially when I'm talking to people. You see, just like with you, what you're saying is that most of it runs in the background. And what happens, it's almost like quote unquote troubleshooting, right? You know, oh, the light is out. Oh, is it the light bulb? Is it unplugged? Is the lamp broken? Is the fuse box broken? You know, and when you're doing the Succession 7, believe it or not, you actually track it back and you're like, oh, yes, absolutely. Deficient in sanctification, right? This is happening for a reason. It's happening for me. And it's like, wow, okay, I'm back, you know? And especially when I'm doing greaterness coaching and I'm working with you or anyone else, the most important thing for me to do is to find out where is the blind spot. You know, you like to use the word blockage. I think of it as blind spot. Where is the monkey mind unable to see the greater truth, the greater perspective, the greater connectedness, the greater wisdom? And so I'm using that all the time running in my background, you know, because I do know and I do recognize that once you got that sanctification step down, the rest really, really, truly is organic until you start getting to kindness again, because kindness is when you actually have to remind people to not make life completely about themselves. Like once you're optimal, that's great. Now you got to share it. You got to give it. You got to be of service because you're so fully blessed. How else do you better say thank you? And we can get in the monkey mind and be so full of gratitude and fulfillment and happiness that we actually forget that it's not all about us. And so that's where the acts of kindness and service comes in. And that's really important too, is to not make us the end all be all source of authority of what is true, what is right, what is necessary. Because if you want to grow, you got to get off of that with joy.
Well, do you want to spend a few minutes going through each step real
I'll
quick?
do whatever you want, man.
All right,
How about
perfect.
how
Let's
about
do
you
it.
start? So how about you
Yeah,
do it?
let's
How about you talk and I'll spot you and I'll just listen and in Yiddish, and they call it cavelling, and I'll just take it all in and go,
uh,
"Hmm."
uh, right. I'm gonna watch how much you laugh to see. Oh, wow, he really morphed that step.
Right. You
All
made
right.
it his
All
own. I
right.
love it.
Exactly. All right. So, well, so this is my version, and then I want you to jump in
Good.
with
Please.
what you can add to. So, I
How about
think,
this? How about this? How about I'll jump in right away, okay? Because we added one. I don't know if you know, we added stopping. And I think it's significant because I think it actually does support mindfulness. So we call it the 0 point. And I know that you're really not as familiar with that, but you can be mindful from whatever frenetic place you're in right now. But I do like, before you even start, or starting is stopping. If you're going to start, let's get to zero, nothingness,
okay, step
stopping.
zero is stopping.
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
so go ahead, give yourself permission now, Jeff, if you will, to just stop with me. Just give it a second. Let everything kind of fade away. Take a nice deep breath and enjoy the nothingness. Good luck. See?
I was even going to say, oh, well, I don't need step zero because here we are, we're engaged. But it's still, I got close, it brought more depth to step zero, right? To
Absolutely.
stopping,
Yeah.
which is,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, it means, look, time out. Another way is to say time out. Like when I'm in my, thrashing monkey mind, I'm trying, why is this still bugging me? Time out helps, right? That's like stopping. So
Mhm.
that's step zero, stopping. All right. Step
Mm-hmm.
one.
I love it.
Step
Yeah.
one then is mindfulness, be present. Sometimes if I'm laying down, I'll wiggle my toes. I'm like, I'm getting in tune with the sensations in my body. Say, okay, be present, be mindful, and get into my body. So that's a little shift I do.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
I love the AKAs, I love also known as. I love the synonyms. And We threw out a bunch of them before. I like that mindfulness is about observing and feeling. And it's like, it's setting myself up to receive, even to just be mindful, to just be like, I'm sensorial, and that's visual, auditory, tactile, right? Kinesthetic. I mean, there's so much input to being present. And it's almost like turning yourself into a satellite dish, and just taking in the bigger picture, even if it's a little part of the bigger picture, that's fine. But for me, it really is about being present. And I love to unpack all of that. I love that it does mean, obviously, it means being conscious, right? I mean, it means being aware. I mean, it's so much. It's giving yourself permission to feel,
Right.
right? And to bring things in. I mean,
It,
so
and to
go
bring
ahead.
things in, you can't be full. And often when we're caught up in this, our mind chatter, we're full. We can't take anything else in. So I often think of empty, 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 just kind of releasing, right?
Mm,
You can't pick stuff up if your
beautiful.
hands are full. So emptying the
Ah,
mind, that's a little bit of mindfulness also.
so I want to show you, you just organically went right back to mindfulness. I mean, stopping. When you said emptying, 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 isn't that synonymous with stopping? Think about this. Think about how you could have all the synonyms for stopping. Stopping, and I love space. Like I said, give it space. Stopping, falling into the nothingness. I mean, here, think about these words: nothing, melting, you know, breathing, stopping. It's there's so many beautiful words that are synonymous with each step. And when you play with the synonyms, oh my God, you're really understanding it. You're really beginning to embrace the step because you're having an active relationship with it so well that you're able to represent the synonyms, right? You're able to say it also means this. Let it breathe, Oh my God, yeah. Right? You feel the spaciousness, stopping, okay, making room for swirl. There's so many things. And now you get into mindfulness and it's like, pay attention, just be awake, be aware, give yourself permission to just be, which means sense, to feel, to experience. It's like, wow, observe,
Right.
witness. Think of all these words I just throw out, but that's the definition of mindfulness, especially as it relates to the succession seven, right? Awareness in action, right? Mindfulness. Oh my gosh.
And when you do that, all of a sudden you will hear a bird chirp that you wouldn't have otherwise heard, right? Like there's so many,
Right.
it gets into the subtleness of what's your
Hmm.
surroundings. So that's step one. Then
Absolutely.
is mindfulness. Step two is let it be easy, right? And is that the right words? Is that what you call it?
Yes, ease. Now, a
Ease.
lot of people don't realize that ease is fun because people think of fun and joy as it being like so different. But when you let it be easy, you let it be swirlful, you let it be fun, you let it be light, like ease, like let there be peace. I mean, look at that. Could you imagine if you're exploring ease and you've left out the word peace? That's a very, very important synonym or component or definition, right, of ease. It's like, my gosh, let there be peace, the Prince of Peace, the Prince of Ease, of flow, of grace. And we talked about it. If it's not easy, you're not doing it right. That's such an important statement. It means stop, go back to zero, stop. Mindfulness, let it be easy. And then realize that ease is joyful and fun and light. And it's all of these things. And I've got to tell you something, Jeff, that becomes the ultimate standard on how to do life. My office is called Living Well Education, right? Where I teach people these psychotechnologies of mine. But you don't negotiate with ease because, as you said before, you could push and push and push. And what happens if you're successful in pushing? You've taught yourself to keep pushing to reenact, to reproduce that level of success. It's like, well, what if you give yourself permission that I'm not going to negotiate ease? I'm going to stay in this ease bubble, and then I'm going to be successful. Wow, now you get to reproduce ease in order to be successful. Now that's a life. That's quality of life right there. That's great. That's the way you want to do it rather than, oh, in order for me to be successful, I must freak out because that's the only way that I produce because I've taught that to myself. It's like, no, you entrained yourself to do it that way. Now, newness, you can entrain yourself to learn how to be successful in letting it be easy and reminding yourself if you're struggling, if you're pushing, you're not doing it right. So stop, breathe, go back to the beginning. I choose to be mindful. If I'm mindful, that means ease is not negotiable. I must let it be easy. I must get the bigger picture and let the wisdom help me make my next decision.
And it helps me in that step to recognize that in this moment, everything is fine, right? Like when we have so much anxiety throughout the day, people, anxious thoughts and fearful and all that, but most moments are perfectly fine. No one's chasing me with a knife. There's nothing going on. Everything's beautiful in this moment, you know?
When you said we have so much anxiety, I would say we are continually being offered anxiety for us, really, because
It's
this
a
is the
good
truth. I
distinction.
mean, people are going, hey, would you like some cyanide this morning? Oh, thanks, but no thanks. How about a glass of water? I'd love it. So when people are offering you anxiety, it's only when you accept it or you begin to interact with it that it becomes an issue. Now, is it the anxiety that was offered to you that's the problem? Or the fact that you were just so willing and able to, become one with it and
Mm.
relate it and invite it in, rub its feet, interact with it. Like, I like to call it entertain it,
Entertain it.
hey, we talk about unconditional welcoming, which is true. But if you're unconditionally welcoming anxiety to the point that you're like entertaining it for days upon days upon days, you're missing the absolute purpose of the anxiety.
Perfect. And then, all right, so now we're on to step 3, right? Which is sanctification. A little bit of a weird word because it could be it could be a third rail for some people because it sounds so godly and
Oh, it
spiritual and
is.
biblical.
It is. It is a third rail for many people, which shows you it's like you could throw out the word God, which I love that word. I have no problem with that word. It doesn't mean I'm a fundamentalist Christian or Baptist or whatever, or, a Bible toting, philosophically minded, piece of whatever flesh. That's more of a library book than alive. But that word, sanctification, it trips so many people up. That's why I know this work is so important because I'm helping people develop a working relationship with that word. And if you go, no, I'm not going to do it, it's like, what happened to let it be easy? where in let it be easy does it say exert resistance here?
Right. Well, so on this step, let's see, what do I do? Sanctification. So for me, this is things are happening for me instead of to me, right?
There
So I
you
try and
go.
I
There
plug
you
into
go.
that. And then with that, because that sometimes I resist that. So then I plug into, well, it's just like playing golf,
How's
right?
that feel?
You,
How's that feel when you resist it, by the way? How ease filled is that?
right, right.
When
So,
I try to resist the fact that this is actually purposeful, meaningful, it's happening for me, not to me. When I resist that, oh, that's where I need to be. Like, oh, what about ease? What happened to ease? Let's go back to ease. Because if you're letting it be easy, then you concede to the fact that everything is happening for a reason, which means you can sanctify it. You can actually exalt it, meaning raise it to its highest point, which means what? Tell the greatest story about it, its purpose, its meaning, that it's happening for you. But how is it happening for you? So we have this phrase, and I threw it out before, called unconditional welcoming. Well, if you're preparing to unconditionally welcome anything, then you're preparing to sanctify because you can bring something in and go, oi, but then you can unconditionally welcome the oi. And then you realize, oh, that oi is there for me to go, welcome. So it's you that I'm supposed to greet unconditionally. Well, hello. Thank you for being right on time. How can I support you? Obviously, you have a reason and a purpose. May I get to know you? And so, all of this stuff, that's why we even broke sanctification up into 7 steps, because it does really trip a lot of people up. And it really is unconditionally welcoming. And then we say, meet it and greet it. Oh, it's you that I'm unconditional. Well, welcome. And then the interview, right? You just have these many questions. You can talk with whatever's showing up. And it's a two-way conversation. Like, so many conversations with God, right? It's conversations with whatever showed up. And you say, hi, how are you doing? And it speaks, well, I'm here. Well, you're right on time too. Thank you for that. Is there anything I should know about you? A ton. Okay. So What should I know? Well, I'm timely. I'm right on time. I got that. Of course, you've got full of integrity. You're perfect. But what is it I'm supposed to know? Ah, that's why I'm here, for your greater awareness. I'm dialing you into greater you. And it's like, well, that's wonderful, but I'm sure there's something specific that you're here to tell me. And so this is the interview.
Right.
And then when you're done with that interview and you're like, oh my God, I understand why this healing challenge showed up. I understand why I'm going through all of this. And it does have my greaterness involved. It is about my emergence. And then you get to that point where you make the vow and you're like, hey, I'm one with you. You and I, we're unconditionally connected. I call that unconditional entanglement. And there is an unconditional entanglement in the world with you and me, Jeff, and anybody who's watching this, right? And so that is the depth of sanctification when you get to all of that, and then at the very end of that, I, as a facilitator, because I love working with people, I love working with bodies, I love working with energies. Then from that place, and this is still sanctification, is I just assess and address. And, that's just me, just being me, just so that my presence, my resonance can be as neurologically nutritious as possible. And that I don't have to keep my mouth shut in order to be supportive, that I can actually say something and those words capture the resonance, and then an individual can take all that in, that the words don't interfere with the silence and the wisdom in the silence. So anyway, that's a lot that I unpack around
Yeah, there's a
sanctification.
we could do a whole video just on that one step, I know. So,
Absolutely.
and then the next step is step 4, which is appreciation, right? And for me,
Right.
what I do on this step is it's personal appreciation of the things that I have in my life. I flash on
Mhm.
my parents and my sisters and people people that are close friends and my pet or anything that like I really appreciate in life. That I'm living in a place where I've got some freedom, some freedom in this country we have,
Right.
and things like this
Hmm.
that allow me to say, look, I've got a lot of things to be thankful for, and even flashing on how amazing this planet is, and that really I could pack a bag and go anywhere on this planet almost, and it's a beautiful thing, and so that's
Right.
what I get in touch with. How do you use that step?
I love that you used appreciation. That means you're already doing it. You're already using synonyms because, on paper, it's called gratitude, but you
Okay.
called it appreciation. That's beautiful. You can call it appreciation because that's your understanding of gratitude, of thankfulness, right? Of, ah, what else? Gratefulness. Oh my God, there's so much, there's so many words. But again, this is it. This is where the Succession 7 starts to take on a life of its own because it does happen organically when you're sanctifying. And you even said it yourself, when you're exalting it, when you're giving it appreciation, when you're seeing it at its zenith, at its highest point, going back to sanctification now, right? You're going, this is holy. This is sacred. Wow, you're really seeing it. How important is it for human beings to be seen? Well, trust me when I tell you, anything presents itself to you that you're facing, it wants to be seen, but it wants to be seen in the highest light possible, which if you're not seeing it, if I say, I see you, Jeff, and you're a fool, hey, there's some truth to that, but that's not what we're talking about right now. But if I see you and say, man, this guy is so lit up, he's on fire, he's full of passion, he's amazing, he's an incredibly connected individual, you're going to be like, man, Dr. Michael, I love being with you because you actually see me. Well, things act like that. Things want to be seen. And so sanctification, when you say this is holy, this is sacred, which is all part of sanctification as well, is the recognition of that and conceding to that, not just choosing to see it that way, but conceding that it is so. Then this is the part that I love, is that all of this stuff, appreciation, gratitude, thankfulness, I mean, all of this is organic. Why? Because it's happening for you and it's given to you, and there's so much to be grateful for. And now you have this grateful heart. I mean, think what that does to your, not just your own quality of life, but the value of your contribution, because you're so complete within yourself. I mean, that's a deep, deep, deep level of completion. So anyway, I just wanted to talk and say how much I really appreciated your using the word appreciation for step 4. I appreciate that. I have great gratitude and thankfulness, and
And
Gratefulness.
and when I get to that step, then the next step really is easy, which is step 5, and that is,
Happiness. I mean,
yeah, you're already at
you can
peace,
call it
right? At this point,
right,
if you've done the first 4
right.
correctly, you are in a place of happiness, and all of a sudden,
Absolutely.
in my book, everything feels checked. I feel good about where I'm at in the world, what's going on in my life. I'm just, I'm excited about everything that's potential, and so I'm at that place of happiness, and that
Let
leads
me,
me. Yeah, go ahead.
no, no, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that slides me right into step 6, which then allows me.
Oh, wait, then hold
Yeah.
on, hold
All
on. Let
right.
me do that because I really want to get into the happiness because, people are so sovereign. They're unique. They have their autonomy. They're incredibly incomparable, not duplicatable. They're so, I guess, special, magical, individual that this word, just like we had to include fun with ease, because you have to understand the lightness of ease in step 2, that happiness for some people, it can be ecstasy, it can be a giddiness, but there can be a mature happiness where it's not about the smile, it's about the fulfillment, it's about the contentment, it's about the all is wellness that you're actually representing. There is just, yes, of course it's joy, but there's also just this completeness. You know, Fulfillment is a great word.
Yeah, fulfillments.
Contentment is that,
Mhm.
and I really wanted to make sure that we really understood that happiness is not just like the jester or the fool joke, laugh, but it's that too.
Yes,
But
because
go ahead.
because I've had people react to that. They're like, "Oh, well, you just, you always just want to be happy. Well, what about what about helping the world, like the ills in the world? How do you're ignoring it, right?" And it's like, okay, so that's where the cinnamons I love that you're talking about add
Yeah.
some context to it. It's really not just about putting on a smile, like you say. It's about living from a place of we've got this. What's the step we can take to make a difference? But we've got this, and we're doing it in a heart-filled way, in a passionate way, in a way that takes care of ourselves and others, as opposed to some agenda or some fakeness, right? Fake news, any of that.
I gotta tell you, I'm blowing up over here. I am so excited because you let in a word of a synonym that we left out, and it's completeness. And people said, "Oh, how could you represent that part of happiness?" Now you see why I talked about the sovereignty of each unique individual, because for them, something is incomplete, and they need to make it complete, or something is not right or not whole. And that's why when you go through this process, you can't skip sanctification, because if you skip sanctification, then you're never going to have that level of completeness, like all is well. And they're going, well, all isn't well because we've got things to take care of. I mean, clearly we can't just kumbaya the hell out of all this stuff. And it's like, well, do you believe in you being the solution, or do you want to bring in more toxicity to this? Because if you believe in you being the solution, then, and if you really want to take great action, then you're going to have to do it really, really well, because your resonance, the way you do this, really matters. And if you do this from a place of wholeness, a place of all is wellness, I promise you, you are functioning far more optimally than you who says, well, I have no time for gratitude or sanctification because we got work to do. Yeah, but you're going to do it poorly. You're going to do it, you're compromised. You're like already been hijacked. I mean, what kind of result can you possibly expect? Well, I got to get to work. See you. Bye. It's like, bye. See you. And there's nothing you can do about that. But that's why we offer cookies. Well, you may want to consider letting it be easy. You may want to consider sanctification and then see what happens. Yes, you'll be grateful. And then you will be complete while you continue to answer the call, whatever society needs, whatever you're going to do on behalf of your greater contribution. But you do want to make sure that you're doing it really, 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 really well. And the Succession 7, puts you on that path and just gives you some, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Standard. It's just this great standard on how it can be done, because it can be done mindfully, with ease, sanctifying it with great gratitude and contentment or completeness or happiness or joy or fulfillment. So I wanted to get all those words out for happiness, and complete was the word that we needed to put in there.
Right, and optimal state, because I think to your point, as we talk about, happiness can be a trigger for some people, but for optimal state, like how can you optimally you've got this shitty thing to take care of, but what's the best state of mind for you to take care of it in? What's going to give you the
Right.
best
Exactly.
answers? So I think that's that step. All right, and then
Well, first thing I would do, I would take away the word shitty, and even though you can do that, but you're throwing it under the bus. For you to say we got the shitty thing to take care of, you clearly have to be sanctification deficient, or you can't say shitty and then be sanctifying it at the same time. You could say we've got this purposeful thing we have to take care of, and it's like that's true, and now you're going to do it better. When you say we got this shitty thing to take care of, now you're entering into an adversarial relationship. Now you're doing battle with it. It's like, you don't want to do that because now you're trying to beat it at all costs instead of allowing it to have its purpose, its place. You get it?
well, I was using it for emphasis.
No, but I do want. I know. I don't look. Look. This is why I try to keep my mouth shut. I'm only so successful at it, but I do believe since we're making this video, and it could be held for all times, that I did want to make that point because I think it's a valid point, and I think it's a helpful point. Because a lot of people are fault finders, and they are addicted to drama. They are. They are addicted to what's wrong, and they are addicted to expressing the shittiness of life, and that's true. But then they have like problematic eyes. They want to see, they're looking for faults so they can feed that addiction of going, see, shitty. Told you it was shitty. And it's like, well, that's your quality of life now. Now you can't really call that living well. Wow. Wow. Congratulations. You spotted something that's shitty. Aren't you enlightened? You know? And then how much are you interacting with the shittiness of life? Or are you using it as just a millisecond of a step to remind you to do the succession 7, right?
Right. So once you're in this, and at this point, if you feeling any of that, you have to go back to previous steps, right? But at this point,
Absolutely.
you should be in a state of, wow, my life is beautiful. I'm in an optimal state. I'm ready to tackle the world, and then for me, that frees me up for the next step, which is kindness. And kindness is a gentle way to say it. It
Absolutely.
could be serving others. It could be now that your mask is on, helping others, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I always flash on, when given the choice between being right or being kind, choose kindness, right? That's what this step is
Mm-hmm.
about for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, what I notice in myself and others is how often we want to be right. And
Mm-hmm.
that's our soapbox, the soapbox we stand on. But when you get to
Uh,
this step, if you've done the first steps right, then kindness comes very naturally. You're like, I just want to share this with people. I want to help other people feel the state that I'm feeling now. And I'm not always in this state,
mhm.
but when I'm
Right.
feeling the state, I'm like,
Right.
oh, it's so great. How can I help others release their tension, release their stress, their anxieties, get to the state, learn it? And that's what sharing's about, and
Absolutely.
such a beautiful step.
I love when you said doing it right. I love that because we had a conversation about that. And I would say doing it well. Doing it
Doing
well is doing it right. That's what we even call it living well, like living well education. I think the idea is to say if we're doing it well and then to unpack what does that mean to do it well? I mean, to really be in it, because it's such a beautiful word to use, but it doesn't really hold you to that highest standard of what does it mean to do it well, and then you
Mhm.
get to define that and be in the inquiry of it. But I think that that's a really important distinction. You can say doing it optimally, or doing it with your greaterness, something where you're growing, or you're conceding, you're melting, you're dissolving. You're doing it from a higher and higher place.
And I love that you included this step because there can be, let's see, there can be a feeling that I've noticed this before. I've challenged myself on it, and others have too. Of, well, you're thinking all about yourself. You're investing in yourself. All this stuff you're doing is about you. It's really an ego thing, and it's really not. It's really about
Well,
be
I
creating a greaterness, an optimal me that I can help others. And that's what I love about this step, because that's ultimately why I do all of this. Of course, there's self-serving at some level, but at the core of it, I'm, it hurts me to know how much they go through, how much anxiety they have, how much fear they have, all the crap that they do face. Life is tough. There's no doubt about that. There's so many unknowns and so many things that happen to us. But when I've tried to dissect it and say, okay, but if I looked at every moment of my life, how many of those moments had really crappy things happening to me, the car accident or whatever it was. The moments that there's really a crisis are very few and far between compared to every moment that can be beautiful if you're in the right mindset. And so
There it is.
if
There
you
it
could be
is.
there and help others be there, to me that's the key to the castle.
I don't know if there's anything left. That's not just the key to the castle. That is the castle. I mean, that's the everything. That's the key. It's everything. It's everything, Jeff. I mean, that I don't know if you could make life have a higher purpose or a meaning that, but you do have to take care of yourself. I wouldn't call it ego because you want to be the best you, you know. My dear, dear friend Miten in his song, he says, with the gifts that you bring, remember one thing. It's the love for yourself that you share. And so when you're really loving yourself, meaning caring well for yourself, meaning like doing the Succession 7, wow, then your contribution is so much greater. You're even more effective in being there to be a support system for others. And sometimes just being there is enough, you know, just being there. But man, when you're packing all of this juice, like literally, if you're there and you're sanctifying everything, even in silence, oh, your resonance, right? What you're putting out is unbelievable. It's like your life becomes a prayer and really, and just emits so much goodness for anybody who's blessed enough to feel it or be present to it. When you're being kind, you're doing for others. Think about that. I mean, kindness is when, you know, you've taken such good care of yourself. Yes, you're being kind to yourself, of course. But part of being kind to yourself is being kind to others. Is like, if it's important to you, it's important to me. This is an important synonym. So kindness for me is being of service, is being open to listening so well without having to respond in a, well, let me correct you. It could be kind is, I'm going to absolutely honor. There's a word we didn't even use for sanctification, to honor. That's a great word. You're going to honor it. Let me honor your process. Let me honor what you can hear, what you can't hear. You know, let me respect, another great word for sanctification. Let me respect what you can hear and what you can't hear. And then you are there for them in almost an inquiry kind of way, like, hey, I'm here, whatever it is that you need. And then you stay in that standard that you have in being kind, and you don't leave that place, like, because that's something that you don't want to negotiate. You want to continue to be swirlful and an incredible influence, to be of service, to be kind. It's more than just holding the door open for somebody, but it is that. But it's sometimes just seeing people and seeing their wisdom and telling them, wow, I really get what you're going through. I'm not experiencing at the level that you are, but man, I really get how difficult or challenging it can be to be you. And let me just tell you something, whether you know it or not, you so got this. Now, that level of kindness is very powerful, right? Where you're not even making them wrong for being in a challenged place, because they're not, because their process has an integrity, right? And so you're being kind with it all because you're so blessed and so fulfilled within yourself that, you know, you do that. And now you see, when you're having that level of kindness, of being of service to others, this is where the last step, number 7, comes in: creativity, newness. Because why? Because when we do for others what we cannot do for ourselves, when we're truly organically wanting to be kind and to help people, it's amazing how we can create new strategies, create new creativity, newness, create new strategies to help other people that we wouldn't really see for ourselves. So when we're being kind, we actually come up with great strategies because this is going to help somebody we really love. And then you're like, huh, I can use that for myself, because we don't see ourselves the same way. We're so skewed in how we view ourselves that sometimes we don't really know how to really be kind to ourselves. The monkey mind has a good idea of what kindness to ourselves is, but that's not really it. It's when we're really trying to serve other people and we come up with something brand new, revolutionary. That's where all this work came from, right? These were acts of kindness because I was helping my clients, right? Or people that come to me. Isn't that nicer? Participants in Thriveapeutics or Greaterness Coaching are now participants in Succession 7. So I wanted to give them something for them to play with, and literally play with. There's another word for ease: play. Let it be fun. Let it be easy, playful. So you see, you asked me how much do I use succession seven, and every time I threw out a word that I realized we hadn't put out right now, I went back and said, oh, honoring, sanctification, play, ease, let it be easy, let it be fun. You see, so it's always with me, not just because we're, unpacking the succession seven. So creativity and newness is so important because again, we do for others what we cannot do for ourselves. And now I'm repeating myself. So my act of kindness is to get quiet.
Well, and I know we're running out of time here, so we'll wrap it up. But I really appreciated going through this. I think it's, for me, I guess the more substance you can put to each step, to each thought, then it becomes natural. And another thing we haven't talked about here, but we'll talk about in other ones is, this whole thought of, unconditional competence and, conditional competence,
Got it.
conditional, what are the other ones? In
Yeah,
conditional
you got
incompetence.
it. No, absolutely. It starts out with no unconscious. You got the word unconscious incompetence, and then it turns into conscious incompetence, and then that turns to unconscious competence, and then it's yeah, that's the ultimate, right? It's unconscious competence. Let me see. I missed one. Unconscious incompetence, then it's conscious incompetence, then it's conscious competence, and then it's unconscious competence. We can talk about that at another time. But lastly, just to close out um, the creativity newness, you could use that at work because we all have clients, we all have to build relationships. And the best way of building relationships is really serving for the sake of serving. And you don't do that if you're not fulfilled within yourself. You can't serve because you're so busy getting. And that's my definition of evil, by the way. You talked about it before about all this stuff coming at you. And I think the stuff that's coming at us are just symptoms of individuals who have lost touch with their humanity. And make sure that we don't lose touch of our humanity. And the succession seven makes it impossible to be out of touch with your humanity because kindness, because it's not about you. You can't be the ultimate reference point all the time. And at work, you can't be. And kindness is the ultimate way of building relationships, working relationships. People want passive incomes. Look at the people I work with. I've been working 30 plus years. And it's not because, you know, anything manipulative. It's because I really show up for you, Jeff. I mean, I really do. And that's my act of kindness. And so if we're going to be successful in business, you like to bring in the corporate piece a lot. You represent that, even though you've recently left corporate. I still think that the succession seven works very, 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 very well. However, when you're working with people who are just going to take from you, take from you, take from you, and not really return the relationship, it's not really build a relationship. They've lost touch with their humanity. You got to take note of that, and you got to be like, okay, this person is not as safe to relate to as like relating to Jeff or relating to Michael or something. These people are really safe to relate to. I could be successful and have a great quality of life. Now that's important because then you start finding your tribe. You start finding your inner circle, your God squad, the people that you're supposed to be around. And you're not really around people you're not supposed to be around. Because if you're doing that, it's because you're being a little aggressive with your own agenda, which is, by the way, that is my definition of evil, is being so aggressive with your own agenda that you begin to lose touch with your humanity, that you're not optimally human anymore. You're starting to take a hit on that. And so you have to look at that like, oh, am I having an agenda that I'm being overly aggressive with? Because if you are, it's probably taking a hit of your humanity. So anyway, I just wanted to share all that because I think that that really rounds it out and makes it even more practical for people because everybody has relationships, and I think that kindness, newness, six and seven, man, it doesn't get better than that. And I'm just preparing you to get there by going through those other steps instead of just jumping right into kindness or just be happy. And it's like, no, you got to work this thing backwards. You really do. You want the newness and creativity to come as a natural consequence of your kindness, of wanting to serve others. And you want that to come because you yourself are fulfilled, you're happy, you're complete within yourself. And that's happening because you're grateful. The gratitude is happening because you've sanctified and you did all this and letting it be easy because you chose early on mindfulness and you even stopped to give mindfulness a fighting chance.
Well, lots of exterior forces that work in a different direction from what you just talked about, and I think that's why it's so important for people to take some time every day to invest in this, invest in themselves, in this kind of work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for just even wanting to unpack that. It's always fun for me. It's like any parent when you give birth to a child, you love that child so much because it came through you. And yeah, there could be a sense of ego in that, but there is a sense of wow, this is really good stuff. It's like looking at my daughter or my sons and just going, wow, they're pretty great people. They're pretty amazing people. Look at them. Even though they're not mine, they came through me. And so I'm a little more attentive, or I pay a little more attention, or I observe a little more closely, and I get to cavil and appreciate even more how awesome they are. And I feel that way about the Succession Seven, like it's an offspring or a child of mine that I midwifed or gave birth to.
I love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, appreciate it. Thanks for
All
spending
right.
time with me today.
Cool. Loved it. We'll do it again. Have a good night
All
or a
right.
day or whatever. Have a good week.
You too.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.